Just for accuracy's sake, I will tell you, I found one diamond in the rough. This isn't assault, is it? A sane feminist who was willing to have a conversation with me.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there are many here, actually, but I think that nowadays debate has been closed down so much that people basically don't, they take, immediate offence, whereas I'm not so bothered about being offensive, I'm bothered about oppressive, right? And even this distinction, he's going to hit, he's going to hit. I would say that people have completely annihilated the difference between being offensive and being oppressive.
Yeah, I don't think they see the difference. They think that asking a question is hate. They think that asking a question is genocide. Anyway.
Yeah, but it's because all materialism has been completely gutted from any conversation, I would say, on the left. As someone on the left, there just isn't this presence anymore, this kind of analysis of whether it's, generally whether it's to do with women.
So how can you handle being among this shrieking?
No, I think this march is great. I think that people basically presume where you're coming from when you ask that you're anti-Islam, right? Which, I guess you are, right?
Yeah.
And then they're just not interested. And they also, I think, maybe feel that they're not confident enough to take down what you said, whereas I just answered and dismantled what I thought you were implying,
Right. I had some lovely people that even said to me, I don't know enough about the topic.
Yeah.
And like that I think that's a perfectly reasonable answer.
Yeah, but I would say that, I think the march is great. I just wish it was bigger and had more people on it, really.
I'm sorry, I completely disagree with you.
Why?
Well, I think that there's kind of this lemming mentality of just shriek anti-hate, shriek anti-violence, and no one really knows what those words mean, and it creates kind of...
I think that a lot... No, but I think that if people people can sharpen their politics more, I agree that a lot of the time politics has become more degenerated in the last decade, but I don't think that means just like abandoning social movements, but I think probably building them up. But yeah, I think a lot of people, when it says women unite, I want to say, okay, what's your vision for that?
Yeah, what does that mean? Exactly.
Yeah, I think that lots of the time in the past people did have a vision for that. At the moment, if you think about kind of rape crisis services are under attack, women's refuges are under attack. I think...
What women refugees? Sorry.
Refuges.
Refuges? Oh, refugees.
Yes. All right. You had to go there.
I had to go there, yes.
Yeah. But I think that a lot of the time people, they did, but I think their instincts are correct, basically. It is the case that in the UK, 80,000 women are raped a year, 400,000 are sexually assaulted. This is a huge proportion of the population.
Well, that's why I think it's such an interesting question to ask about Islam versus women's rights, because a lot of these rape gangs, like in Rotherham, where women are being victimized, are these cultures that are coming in that do not value women.
I simply think that the police are willing to prosecute them. I don't think that they're as willing to prosecute white men.
Really? I'd completely disagree.
I can send you statistics later that show that actually the vast majority of sexual abusers of women and children are white, as a ratio.
That is within, accounting for the population.
The whole, within the UK as a ratio and the 5 million Muslims that live here. I'll send it to you, honestly.
All right, well, look at Sweden, where 90% of the rape gangs that occur are foreigners.
Are foreigners?
Yes, they're foreigners.
I'm sure that, what statistics, though? I'm sure they've been debunked as well.
I don't know about that. They're quite recent.
But I think that you've got to look at who the police are willing to believe did rape a woman, who the police are willing to prosecute, and then the statistic is based on this.
Well, could that be because there are false accusations as well?
No, I think it's because the police see a white businessman and they think, this is going to be really hard for us to prosecute, so the Crown Prosecution Service doesn't. They're much more likely, it's true, a jury is much more likely to convict someone who's black or Muslim.
And
I would say one of the biggest things, there's actually a Muslim friend here with me tonight, at least in Muslim communities they're not pretending that prostitution is liberation, whereas today a huge amount of feminism does say this, that,
I actually find this fascinating. Speaking, if you were to say these kind of things in America or in Canada, you don't believe in transgenderism, you don't believe in kind of the prostitution as liberation.
Yeah, I'm very critical of them.
If you're critical, you'd be a fascist. You'd be a Nazi. KKK.
People still say that here, but by people, I mean a certain amount of people that have managed to dominate the left through the internet. The vast majority of people are well aware that prostitution... No one wants their kids to go into this, right? What they mean is that poor immigrant women who've been trafficked, it's okay for them, right? They don't mean their sisters, their mothers, or their kids.
Right. So are you kind of sympathetic to the free speech battles of the more right-wing people in the UK then?
What I would say is I wouldn't frame it in terms of free speech. Because I think a lot of the time people think free speech is like some free-floating cosmology, right? So I think that people should have the right, and it's a thing to do with whether free speech is enshrined in law, which it is. So I do agree in certain contexts of it's a good idea to no platform fascists, but I would say more a physical no platform.
But what if you're labeled the fascist?
Well, right, but this has become to the point where everyone's a fascist. But this is another question. Because fascism is a real political, it's national socialism, right?
Barely any of the people called fascists today actually fall under it, so why is even talking about deplatforming them a question?
Right, but I would say on the left now this has become so degenerated that you're a fascist if you are, if you don't agree, if you are critical of the concept of transgenderism, and you even distinguish it between transsexualism and transgenderism, right? I would say that most...
So join the free speech absolutist club. Join us.
But I think that the idea of it as free speech is like, it's only ever framed when certain people's rights are in question. So when Malcolm X got shot, no one ever said, oh, this is an attack on free speech. We were like, he's been murdered because he's part of anti-racist struggle. And I don't think that the left or people, having a social movement from below would ever manage to even have this accepted as free speech. I mean, women have nothing like free speech in this country. I would say it's things like freedom of assembly, freedom of association, and freedom of organisation.
Need to be allowed?
Yes. I would frame it in this way a lot more.
Okay, well, I see those things all under free speech.
Okay,
so
sure,
I guess
sure. It's like a heading.
Semantics, and I would not agree. I think that we need to hear all opinions, including fascist opinions, just because you can't argue with them, you can't debunk them if they're.
People say to you, six. I mean, and this is the kind of stock statement. It's very provocative, so you know what I mean. 6 million Jews didn't die because their arguments weren't good enough. This is the line trotted out. What do you think of, how would you respond?
Because their arguments weren't good enough.
So they didn't die because their arguments weren't good enough. So it's not a matter of being able to argue. It's a matter of building power.
All right, but when it gets to a point of violence, that's an entirely different, that is not allowed under free speech. Violence and plotting to murder or kill people is not allowed under free speech.
But if you ground a violent movement that is inherently violent through these kind of different mechanisms, and you end up with that. So it runs away with you, right?
See, that's a very interesting question, because you could say that about anything. Anything can be taken to the extreme. I'll kill it. You could say that PETA activists could start.
But extreme equality, we probably support this, right? Like, so extremes at one end, like extreme freedom is a good thing.
I think extreme freedom is a good thing.
You mean a different thing than I do.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure, probably.
No,
right?
we would have to sit down and have an Oxford debate on this, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, yeah. What do you say? An Oxford debate?
Oxford, yeah, I love watching those. The Oxford
Union
very
good.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, I met a guy, a professor there yesterday, who's trying to organise one with a woman here tonight who's hopefully going to speak in it, but obviously it will get shut down, right? And we won't be able to get opponents for the other side.
Why will it be shut down?
Because as soon as you start to talk about things like gender identity and you just pull away at it and say, well, it's a circular definition, it's not actually, it doesn't really mean anything, but I am what I say I am. Like when you say I'm identified as attack helicopter, I remember this. It all falls apart. So I understand why they don't want to debate us. And I think it's so interesting there's so many transsexuals as opposed to transgender people who do accept that sex is not just self-declared. Do you know the difference between
transsexual versus transgender?
Transsexual is people that have actually transitioned, and transgender is just I'm trans if I say I am, and you can be for 5 minutes if you say you are. The end.
Right, well that's amazing. I could change, you could have to call me he in about 2 seconds. Actually, my ID says he.
Right. but it is now very much that transgenderism is dominant, whereas 20 years ago it was transsexualism, and I think people just transitioned and wanted to go on with their lives, but they were not claiming to be the same as women.
Or using it for a political purpose.
No, I mean, I really think that actually now it's very much men's rights activists that are using it. There's actually a guy here tonight called Lily Madigan, who is a women's officer in Labour. He bullied a lesbian woman out of the role in another branch. He's here tonight. 2 years ago, he said that Race for Life, it's like a charity run for women, I think it's for breast cancer. He said that not allowing men on Race for Life is like making black people go in the back of the bus under segregation in the States. And he even quoted Rosa Parks.
Oh, so you think it's being used as a caveat to push men's rights? Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. I mean, this is where a lot of it comes from.
Now, would you not say that maybe, with Islam, people pretending to be Muslim when they don't really adhere to the values of it, they're just using that for political purposes as well?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think it would ever make someone more popular to say they were Muslim.
I think it does, though. Look, you've got a Muslim mayor of London.
well, yeah, but he happens to be Muslim. But the campaign against him was so Islamophobic, it was unreal. So I think that...
You've got these people that are like, I'm a Zer, Muslim, trigender, whatever, or unicorn, and they've got all these, and they love to add that in it, right?
But these are people who are, listing certain identities, but Islam generally, I mean, as far as I'm aware, people mean they're from a certain background, or they are practicing Muslim.
We're going to get into the weeds here, and I think the march is escaping you, but I really enjoyed our conversation. I really did.
Are you coming to the rally? No.
Should I? Should I stop by? I do want to grab drinks with the lads, but there's an MP.
Stella Creasy. But anyway, I'll send you a hello on Twitter.
Please do. What's your name on Twitter?
It's Jen Isaacson.
Jen Isaacson. All right. Thank you very much.